Wilderness Altar. Known historically as the Chaos Temple, is a temple located in level 38 Wilderness. This temple houses an altar with a very unique opportunity for players who are willing to brave the hostile and brutal conditions that come with it. Ha! Just kidding. If you're currently too scared to use this altar, my hope is that by the end of this video, you'll have changed your mind, and I will show you some tips, tricks, and techniques to avoid PKers or to minimize your losses. Before we get into defending and why you should not be worried about the Wilderness Altar, let's cover a few basics. If you're familiar with the Wilderness Altar, please feel free to skip forward using the timestamps. Wilderness Altar benefits. The Wilderness Altar offers the same benefits as a Gilded Altar, offering 3.5 times the experience per bone. The altar also offers a 50% chance that the bone will not be consumed, effectively increasing the XP per inventory and the XP per GP. The additional benefits include that the Elder Chaos Druid outside of the temple will unnote noted bones for 50 GP per bone. However, it is not recommended to carry noted bones in the wilderness. Locating and traveling to the Wilderness Altar is quite simple. First option, and this is the best and most efficient option, is using the Burning Amulet to the Lava Maze Teleport. If you have this available, this is the preferred method. You can also use the Gorok Teleport on the Ancient Magic Spellbook. However, this is costly and not available to everyone. If you have certain account restrictions, like you're a rebuild or an early Iron account, you can run from Edgeville or the Ferox Enclave Bank. Your fourth option is also a player-owned house. You can use the Obelisk Teleport. However, this requires you to have the teleport within your house. On the screen now is a map of the wilderness showing 3 out of the 4 teleports. Number 1, which is slightly larger, as you can see, is the Burning Amulet Teleport, running directly to the altar. We will look closer at routing in following sections. 2 and 4, as shown on the screen, are the Obelisk and the Gorok Teleport. And finally, number 3, which is running from the Ferox Enclave. This option is really only there for people who have account restrictions, such as Iron accounts or rebuilds. It's important to remember that there are many teleports in the wilderness. You can research other options, but the previous are the most common and the best options. For each of them, run your route in advance with an empty inventory. Learn the escape routes, hiding places, and the levels of the wilderness. At this time, it is important to note that you cannot teleport out of the wilderness past level 30, with a few exceptions. The fastest way for a player to leave after using the altar would be to kill the player. However, we will go into further detail in the next section. For the time being, we'll talk about world selection. First off, you can either use PvP worlds or normal worlds. In PvP worlds, if your spawn is set to Lumbridge, you will respawn within the safe space zone. Within the safe space, there is a bank chest that a player can use almost immediately, making this one of the most efficient methods for regaining your supplies and returning to the altar. Please keep in mind that in high-risk worlds, you will not retain your 3+1 items when you are killed. In normal worlds, you will need to be a bit more creative with banking, following your death in the wilderness. For this reason, you will need to carry an additional item to teleport yourself back to return to a bank. Items used for quick access to banking are the Amulet of Glory, Ring of Dueling, especially if you're using Ferox Enclave, the Camelot Teleport with the Heart Diary completed, Crafting Cape, Construction Cape, and a few others. You can also refer to the wiki for the list of closest to see things that might be more specific to your account. Gearing and death. Since death is the most efficient way to teleport yourself out of the wilderness, you'll need to be mindful of what you are carrying. Assuming you do not skull, and you have no reason to skull, when you die you'll be holding 3 items, plus 1 additional item assuming you've completed level 25 prayer with the Protect item prayer and you have prayer points remaining. It is important to remember that you could get smited, so don't carry anything very expensive as your 4th item. What you will use as your 3+1 item is pretty standard, but feel free to make adjustments based on your situation, account type, or what you're intending to do. For example, if you're going to kill the Chaos Fanatic using the Retribution Prayer, or anti-PKing, you may want to carry an ammo-less weapon, such as a crystal bow, blowpipe, or some type of melee weapon. Most commonly, you'll be using a Burning Amulet, Bank Teleport, Black D'hide Body for defense, Cerebruse or food, and quite possibly the Locator Orb to make yourself die faster. On the screen now are some gearing examples for normal worlds. Example 1 is the normal and fastest trips. You'll have a Bank Teleport, Burning Amulet, black d'hide for defense, and food or a cerebrew. Example 2, if you're killing the Chaos Fanatic using the Retribution Prayer, you'll maybe have a bag teleport, burning amulet, ammoless weapon, and food or brews. Gearing examples for PvP worlds, because you might be looking for a little bit more efficiency, would include a burning amulet, black d'hide body, food or brew, and maybe the locator orb, which is going to allow you to take damage much faster. Example 2 is fast but tanky, burning amulet, black d'hide body, maybe a Din's bulwark, and some food or a brew. Survival and practice. Now is the interactive and workshop portion of the video. So we are here in the crafting guild. We've got nothing in our inventory. We are going to go on a trip to the wilderness altar. Now, like I said before, you'll most likely be using a burning amulet. So go ahead and equip one. That is one of your items. In my case, my return teleport is going to be the crafting cape. Therefore, my crafting cape is equipped. In this example, I am going to wear the tank option, which is a black d'hide body. Equipping the black d'hide body, as you can see, increases your defensive stats pretty considerably, and will give you a good advantage in tanking a few hits at the altar, in the event a PKer arrives. Now, lastly, I am going to take one Ceradomin brew. You can also use a piece of food, but if you have the option to use a Cerebrew, it is preferable. Ceradomin brew will give you 4 doses of restoring your hit points as well as boosting your defensive levels. The amount of hit points that the Ceradomin brew will restore is scaled off your hit points level, so please refer to the chart on the wiki that will show you your level range and the amount you can have restored. Before you leave, it is important to check your risk, so view the items that you will keep upon death. Level 20 wilderness, killed by a player, and protect item enabled. Remember that your protected item should be assumed that it can be lost. Therefore, you do not want to bring a very important or expensive item as your 4th. Make it something disposable, like a teleport or an amulet, or a piece of food. Now, before we start breaking down the practices and the maneuvers, let's first do a dry run. We're just going to run to the altar so you understand the route, understand where you're going, and then we'll start to break this down piece by piece. From the Burning Amulet teleport, you will run west, and then a little bit southwest, and then finally straight west. It is a good idea to take this teleport first without anything in your inventory. If you're using Runelite, you can mark the tiles. If this is new to you, then you won't forget the routes. You can also mark the escape routes, which we will cover in the next section. Now, on your way to the altar, or once you're at the altar, there's a few tips that are more like rules, cardinal rules, on staying alive and staying focused on what your goal is. They might sound obvious, they might sound a little silly, but honestly, a lot of people forget these things in the heat of a PKer showing up and beginning to attack them. The first thing is, don't panic. If you're worried about losing your inventory, you have to remember that the Wilderness Altar's unique advantage is giving you a 50% return on the bones you've used, allowing them not to be consumed. Therefore, you're getting far more than your inventory holds. So if you lose a load here and there, it's not a big deal. If a PKer appears, continue to click on your bones and click on the altar. The placement of your inventory towards the altar is very important. You want to keep clicking the bones and clicking the altar continuously, therefore using the inventory much faster. Time is one of your greatest defensive allies. If someone appears and you've finished half your inventory, instead of trying to focus on running away or focusing on defensive prayers, keep clicking the bones and you can likely finish your inventory. You might want to consider taking your food or taking sips of Cerebrews in between clicks, allowing your health to stay up and allowing the bones to continue flowing. You are killed by a PKer, don't sweat it. Don't take it personally, don't get emotional, and don't get mad at the person. You're in the wilderness and there is a risk. That person is simply doing something that is part of the game. Now, it's often that someone PKing you is looking for your risk and not necessarily the bones in your inventory. What I often will do is if I am PK'd, I will return to the same world with an empty inventory, and about 50% of the time, my stack of bones will still be there. I can pick them up and keep going. Like I said, somebody's there likely for your risk. So if you aren't risking anything aside from bones, and you're only leaving a small amount of bones behind if you are getting PK'd, it's wise not to get emotional and start saying things to that person that is going to cause them to focus on you and hunt you specifically out of spite. You will want to know your route and take evasive action, which we are going to go into in this section. And the last item on this list is make it not worth their while. Don't have too much risk, and if you get frozen away from the altar, bury your bones. Make sure that the person PKing you once you are gone is getting very, very little. If it's not worth their while, they won't come back and they won't target you specifically. Escape route number 1. As you can see on the screen, we have teleported using the Burning Amulet to level 41 Wilderness, and where the cursor is currently is where the teleport location would be. I have ran along the route that I have marked here to show you the entrance to escape route number 1. Assuming you are greeted with a PKer, at this point you can use escape route number 1, which will take you through the greater demons and then down into the KBD layer. This is an escape route because you are able to use the other monsters to aggro to yourself, therefore taking the PKer off of you. Also, the PKer can get aggroed by these monsters as well, so if there's a gap between you and the PKer, you have a chance at getting away and limiting the amount of damage you will take. You can also aggro one of the monsters to allow yourself to be de-aggroed, but if you already are aggroed from the PKer, it's better to just continue to run into the KBD layer, where here it is no longer the wilderness and you can use your escape teleport. Just be wary that you want to do it very quickly because the KBD will begin to attack you almost immediately. Escape route number 2. Escape route number 2 is for those who are a little bit more committed on their route. This is about the halfway point between the altar and where you teleported from. Escape route number 2 incorporates the Chaos Fanatic, which is using a magic attack as well as a long-range multi-attack. Escape route number 2 will require players to run directly towards the Chaos Fanatic. Once you're in its range, remember to pray Protect from Magic as well as any defensive prayers you have. Once you reach the Chaos Fanatic, turn directly east and run towards escape route number 1. As you get further away from the Chaos Fanatic would likely switch aggro from you towards the PKer attacking you. This way, they will become distracted and also start to take damage, allowing you to put a little bit of distance between you and them, also slowing their ability down to attack and switch on you if you are praying against their attacks as well. Point of no return. The point of no return is the point at which you have got far enough away from escape route number 1 and escape route number 2 and are too close to the altar to turn back if you are by chance attacked by a PKer. This is the point where it's better for you to head to the altar to start using your bones rather than turning back and risk getting frozen out in the middle of no man's land. As mentioned previously, one of your best defenses is using your bones on the altar. Using your bones will first grant you the experience from those bones, as well as making what you lose a lot less, making the offer and the reward from killing you a lot less desirable to a PKer. This can also be a fun little race against time to see how many bones you can use on the altar before you are killed by the PKer. Summary and walkthrough. In this video, we covered a lot of the basics. First being that the Wilderness Altar is going to provide you with a 50% chance of not consuming the bone when used on the altar. We looked at the gearing to use when going, and your preferences on how you intend to gear, on what your method is, world selection versus regular worlds, as well as PvP worlds, how to get to the Wilderness Altar, as well as how to leave the Wilderness Altar. Now, I have a full workshop that I was going to include in this video of basically a couple of sample runs. However, that video ran close to around 20 minutes, so instead of ramming into this video and making this video extra long, which people probably don't want to see, I'm going to create a separate video and include the link down in the description. This is a 20-minute video. We're going to go through basically all of the strategies we've showed, how to gear up, how to go to the bank, and we even encounter a couple of PKers, which provides a great example of some of the escape methods and as well what you will kind of expect if you are to encounter a PKer. Part 2, or the workshop, is really going to bring the concepts that we learned together into practicality. Hopefully that everybody tunes into part 2, and like always, if you have any questions, you can reach out through the YouTube comments, you can reach out to me on Twitch, or you can reach out through the socials to the Discord and reach out to me on there. I'll happy to answer any of your questions or even accompany you on a run if you want that for level of comfort and security. Thanks for watching this video, and please tune in to part 2 for the workshop. Thanks.